What's up guys, Aqua Models here, and today I'm going to share my Greater Sydney Gallop experience and show placings for 2022. For those who don't know, this was my second ever live show. I have photo shown a lot in the past, but it's nothing compared to actually being in person. I got to see so many of my friends and meet some other lovely people, not to mention, I did also buy some new ponies. So yeah, I have total self-control by the way. Before we get into the show placings, I just wanted to show you guys my mini haul. Now, I obviously didn't intend to buy anything at the show, but I saw all these gorgeous little ponies and I just couldn't help myself. So the first purchase I made was this gorgeous mirror resin. She does need a little bit of prep work, but I am really excited to paint this girl and I'll probably end up keeping her because she's absolutely gorgeous in person. The next pony is this cute little resin. I have no idea what resin it is, but it is freaking adorable. Like, the face is the whole reason I bought the pony because he just has the cutest little face ever. The next pony is this little jumper stablemate. Now, I got this guy to customize. He's really, really cute. Then the next thing isn't really actually a purchase. It's actually a raffle prize because I entered the raffle and I got this guy. So it's a little medallion. I have no idea what it's called, but he is really, really pretty. The next model is this gorgeous stone foundation quarter horse. I literally freaked when I saw this guy. I was just like, oh my god, it's a foundation quarter horse. I need him. And he is so pretty. So he's a dapple grey. He has a braided tail and a braided mane, which I have never seen on this mold before. The next model is this gorgeous custom. I love this horse. I have actually been eyeballing this girl for quite a while. And the lucky last model of the haul is this gorgeous matte Rhenish draft from Briarfest this year. I have the glossy variation, so I've been looking for the matte variation, and my friend offered him at a really, really good price. So I decided to snatch him, and yeah, he's here now and I'm really, really happy with him. He's absolutely adorable in matte. Okay, so the first model we have is Fireheart. I call him Saya. He was entered into 2 classes for this show. He was entered into a collectability class for Premier Club models, and he was entered into a breed class for American Mustangs. So he got a 2nd place for his collectability class. So next up is actually a new model that you guys haven't seen in my collection before. I haven't even showcased him on Instagram yet, so that's really exciting. So this is Bruno. I entered this guy into 2 classes. So he was entered into American Mustang, and he was entered into a color class as a dun, a grey dun, and he placed fairly well. So he got a 3rd in his breed class as an American Mustang. And then he got a 3rd in his color class. Next we have Kanan. He is one of my absolute pride and joys. I love this guy. I entered this little dude into 3 classes. So he was entered into collectability, breed, and a color class. For collectability, he was entered into connoisseur models, and he actually got a 1st place, which was really exciting. Not only that, but he also got a reserve champion for collectability, and I was so happy. I was almost crying there the day. It was quite funny. So for breed, he was entered into Other Pony as a Connemara cross with a Fjord, or Fjord, or however you pronounce it. And he actually got a 3rd place, which was really, really cool. And then for the last class, he was entered into Dun for color, and he came 4th. So he only just came in behind Bruno. This is Ryan. I entered her into 3 classes again. So she was entered into collectability, breed, and color. She did really well in collectability, surprisingly. She was placed next to another Ryan, so it was a bit tough competition really. But she managed to come out with the 1st place in collectability, which I was so happy about. The next placing she got was in breed. She was entered as a Welsh Mountain pony, and she got a 3rd place, which was really exciting. It was a really big class, so I was extremely proud of this placing. And her last class, the color class, she was entered into Sabino, but there were a lot of models in that class, so I wasn't completely disappointed that I didn't get a placing because there were a lot of gorgeous models in that class. Next up is Excalibur. I love this dude, and I decided to enter him into 3 classes as well. So of course, collectability, breed, and then color. Surprisingly enough, alongside Ryan and Saya, he also got a placing and he got third. So he came in behind Saya and Ryan. His next placing was in his breed class. He was entered into Other Spanish as a Criollo horse and he got a second place in the live show. So that was really, really cool. And his last placing was in colour. He was placed in Sabino as well and he got a 5th place. So he did really, really well in that class. Next up we have Hank. I entered him into 2 classes. He was entered into a breed class and a colour class. He got a 1st place for his breed class. He was entered as a Dutch warm blood into European warm blood. He did really, really well. And then for his colour class, he was entered into Tobiano and he got a 1st place. So he did extremely well at this live show. So next up is Thunderbird. He is my gorgeous troubadour model. He was entered into 2 classes, but he only came out with 1 placing. His breed class, which was Other Light, had a lot of models, so he didn't quite make the top 5. In terms of his colour class, he came out with a 1st, so that made up for literally everything. Next up we have Angor, my beautiful Duende model. He was entered into 2 classes as well. So for breed, he was entered into Andalusian, and for colour, he was entered into grey. He didn't quite get a placing in his colour class, but there were a lot of grey models, so I'm not totally disappointed. But he did come out absolutely rocking it in his breed class. He came out with a 1st place for Andalusian, and then he came out with a reserve champion for the Spanish division, so he did really, really well. Up next, this is Teddy. He is my gorgeous Surratt model. He's the matte variation. I entered this guy into 2 classes as well. So 1 breed, he was in Other Sport, and then his colour class was Palomino. He only got 1 placing for this show, but I'm pretty happy with it. So he got a 1st in his breed class for Frisian Sport Horse in Other Sport. The next model is Triss, my gorgeous Meadowlark. I entered her into 4 classes. Yes, so collectability, breed, colour, and then a fun class because I thought why not. So she didn't get any placings in the collectability. She did, however, place in her breed class, so she got a 3rd. She didn't quite get a placing in her colour class, and she didn't quite make the cutest face in the fun class, but that's totally fine. Next up, we have Astro. You guys would have seen me pull this guy in my Briarfest unboxing, and I was literally over the moon to actually pull a glossy for the first time ever. And I entered him into 4 classes. So collectability, breed, colour, and then a fun class. The first class that I entered him in was collectability. He didn't quite make it, but that's totally fine. The next class he was entered into was a breed class. I decided to enter him into Other Draft as a Irish Draft cross Appaloosa. And there were only 3 models in the class, but he got a 2nd. So I'm pretty happy with that, all considering. The next class he was entered into was the colour classes. He was entered into Spotted, because obviously he has a lot of spots. So he got a 1st place in that class, which I'm extremely proud of. He did absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, he didn't quite get a placing in the fun class, but he did well overall. Next up, we have Vendel, one of my gorgeous Georg models, and I decided to enter him into 2 classes. So he was entered into breed and colour. For the breed class, he was entered into European Draft as a Rhenish Draft, and he got a 2nd place in that class, so that was really, really exciting. The next class he was entered into was his colour class as a Bay, and he got a 3rd. So he is quite a nice Bay, so I think the judge made a really good call with that. Next we have another one of my Georgs. This is Azeroth, and I entered him into 3 classes. He was in collectability, breed, and colour. He didn't quite make the cut for the collectability, which is totally fine, but he got a 3rd place in his breed class as a Norika Draft, which was really exciting. And then for his colour class, he was entered into Spotted, and he got a 4th place. Okay, so moving on, as you can see, I have both my glossy and my matte variation of the Rhenish Draft. This is Iro and this is Ronaldo. Now he is brand new, you guys saw him in my mini haul for the show. So I did actually enter Ronaldo into a couple of classes because his original owner did originally have him in a couple of classes, which is totally fine. Unfortunately, Iro didn't get any placings in any of his classes, but Ronaldo did. So he was entered into a color class and a breed class. He didn't get any placings in his color class, but he did get a 4th place in his breed class as a Rhenish draft, so that was really, really awesome. Next up we have 4. He was entered into 2 classes as well, so he was entered into breed and then of course colour. His breed class, he was entered into Australian stock horse and he came out smashing it with a 2nd place, which was absolutely awesome. And he didn't quite get any placings in his colour class, but that is totally fine. Next up we have Alaska, another one of my Dundee models. He is the 7 Art Surprise from Briarfest last year. Yes, that's correct. He was entered into 2 classes as well, so a breed and a colour. So he was entered into paint for his breed class and he got a 1st place, which was awesome. And then for his colour class, he was entered into Sabino and he also got a 1st place, so he did really, really well. Next up, we're gonna move to my stone horses. So first we have Cody. I entered him into 4 classes. So he was entered into collectability, breed, colour, and fun classes. For collectability, he did actually pretty alright. He got a 4th place in collectability. For his breed class, he was entered into Other Light as a Morgan cross with a paint, and he did pretty alright. He got a 4th place in that as well, so that was really, really good. He didn't get a placing in his colour class, and he didn't get a placing in his fun class, but that's all fine. Next up is Wakanda. He was entered into 4 classes as well, so collectability, breed, colour, and fun. He didn't get any placings in collectability, but there were a lot of Peter Stone models entered in collectability, including a lot of my own. So there was tough competition, but for his breed class, he managed to get a 1st place for Morgan, which was really, really exciting. Not only that, he also got a reserve champion for the light division, which was absolutely awesome. No surprise though, because judges seem to really like this guy. He was also entered into a colour class. He was entered into Bay and he got a 2nd place, which was absolutely awesome. And unfortunately, he didn't quite get any placings in fun class, but that's totally fine. Next up, we have Jay, another one of my Peter Stone Morgans. This guy is one of my personal favorites, so I decided to enter him into all 4 classes that he could be entered into. So collectability, he didn't get any placings. For his breed class, he didn't get any placings. His fun class, he didn't get any placings, but his colour class went a little bit bonkers. So he got a 1st place for Chestnut in his colour class. He got a champion for the solid colours, which was really, really exciting. And because he got a champion, he went into the ring to try and get a grand champion or reserve for colour in OF, and he came back with a reserve grand champion and it literally blew me away. I was so happy, and this will definitely be hung up somewhere in my room. The next model I entered was Sherlock. He was entered also into 4 classes, so collectability, breed, colour, and fun. For collectability, he got a 2nd, which was really, really awesome. For his breed class, he was entered into carriage as an Irish draft. He got a 1st, which I was really, really proud of. Not only that, he also got a reserve champion for the sport division, which was awesome. He unfortunately didn't get any placings for his colour class or his fun class. The next model is Voltaris. He was entered into 3 classes, so collectability, breed, and colour. He did manage to snag a placing in his collectability class, so he got a 3rd. He didn't quite get a placing in his breed class, but there were a lot of quarter horses. So I'm not totally disappointed. For his colour class, he was entered into Roan, and he came out absolutely smashing it with the 1st place, so he did incredibly well. And lucky last for the stone horses I entered, this is Okino. He was also entered into 4 classes, so collectability, breed, colour, and then fun. So for collectability, he got a 1st for less than 50 made, which was awesome. He also got a reserve champion for collectability, which I was completely surprised by. For his breed class, I entered him as an Appaloosa, and he got a first place, so very proud. Not to mention, he also got a champion for stock, which was awesome. And for his color class, I entered him in spotted, so Appaloosa basically, and he got a 4th place. I'm still pretty proud. There were a lot of Appaloosas in that class, so he did really, really well. He unfortunately didn't get any placings in his fun class, but I think the overall amount of placings that he got for this show pretty much make up for it. Now we're going to move on to customs. So here we have Lily, one of my Peterstone Weanling resculpts. She was entered into 3 classes. The first class she was entered into was a fun class. She was entered into cutest face, and I think the judge really, really liked her face because she got a first in that class. The second class she was entered into was a breed class. Unfortunately, she didn't get any ribbons in that class. And the last class she was entered into was for colour. She was entered into Overo, and she got a 4th in that class, so she did really well. The next model is Ivana. She's a resin that's on the Elizabeth mold, and I entered her in a few classes, but she only got 1 placing, and that was in her breed class. She was entered into young stock, and she got 4th. That's pretty good considering she had a lot of competition. There were a lot of adorable foals. The next pony is actually one pony that I bought on the day at the show. So this is Penrith, totally not named after the exact place that the show happened, but you know, whatever. Unfortunately, she didn't get any placings in her breed class, but she got a placing in her colour class for Tobiano, and she got a 3rd, so she did pretty well. Next we have Flash, one of my custom newsworthies. I love this guy. I decided to enter this guy into 2 classes, so breed and colour. He did pretty well in his breed class. He came out with a 4th as a Connemara, and there were quite a few ponies in that class, so he did really well. Unfortunately, he didn't get any placings in his colour class, but maybe next time. Next up we have Kanjigar, one of my custom Dundees. I decided to enter him into 3 classes, so he was entered into his breed, his colour, and a fun class. He only got 1 placing out of all those classes, but it's totally fine. His breed class was actually split into 2 because it originally was for paints and Appaloosas, so they decided to split it to just paint and just Appaloosas, and he managed to come out with a 2nd place, which was absolutely awesome. There were a lot of really pretty Appaloosas, so he did really, really well. Next we have another custom Dundee. This is Charlemagne, or Charlie for short. I just call him Charlie. He was entered into 2 classes, so breed and colour. For his breed class, he was Australian stock horse, and he came out with a 2nd, so he did really, really well. His colour class was of course grey, and there were a lot of greys. I think there was at least 15 to 20 greys in that class. It was pretty big, so I'm pretty thrilled that he came out with a 5th in that class. Next up we have Freefall, one of my custom strapless models. I entered her in 2 classes, so breed and colour. She didn't get any placings in her breed class, but she did manage to get a 4th in her colour class, so she did pretty good. The next model is one of my Roxy customs. This is Astrid, and I entered her into 3 classes, so she did breed, colour, and then workmanship. She did pretty well, all considering. So for her breed class, she was entered into paint. She came out with a 2nd, so she did absolutely brilliant. The next class she was entered into was a colour class. This one was for Sabino, and she came out with a 2nd as well. The last class she was entered into was workmanship, and this class was huge. It was probably one of the biggest of the show, so I was pretty thrilled that she came out with a 5th place. She did absolutely incredible at this show. Next up we have Cora. She's one of my custom Shagya Arabians. She was entered into 2 classes, 1 breed and 1 colour. She didn't get any placings in her breed class because I found out that Arabians don't come in roan. So lesson learnt, I will be looking for a new breed for her. However, in her colour class, she was entered into roan and she got a 3rd. So she did really, really well regardless. Next is Phoenix, my Carrick custom. She was entered into 3 classes, breed, color, and then a remake slash reposition slash resculpt kind of workmanship kind of situation. So she got a placing in her breed class for thoroughbred. She got a 4th. So that was really exciting. She didn't get any placings in her color class, but that's totally fine. She did, however, get a placing in her workmanship class. She got a 5th, and there were some pretty drastic customs, so she did really, really well. Next up we have Zane, my custom troubadour. He was entered into 2 classes as well, so 1 breed and 1 color. For his breed class, he was entered into Other Light as a Morgan, and he came out with a 3rd place, so he did really, really well. Unfortunately, he didn't get any placings in color, but there were a lot of grey horses, so I'm not totally disappointed. Next we have Finley, or Finn. He's one of my custom Geronimos. I entered him into 2 classes. He was in breed and colour. He got a really good placing in his breed class, which was quarter horses. He got a 2nd place, which I'm really, really proud of. For his colour class, he unfortunately didn't get any placings. Next up, we have my Alborozo custom. This is Iolia. He was entered into 4 classes for this show. He was in fun, breed, colour, and workmanship. He only got 2 placings out of all those classes, but it's totally fine. So for his fun class, he was entered into favourite model because he's one of my favourites. So he got a 1st place. The next placing he got was for his breed class. He was entered into Lusitano / Andalusian, and he came out with a 5th, so he did really well. The next model is one of my newbies that you guys saw from the mini haul, and this is Blue. I am not totally set on the name just yet. It was kind of just one that I came up with on the spot because obviously I was entering her last minute into some classes at the show. So I entered her into 2 classes. She was in a breed and a colour class. For her breed class, she was entered into paint, and she managed to come out with a 4th. Unfortunately, she didn't get any placings for her colour class. Next we have Catullus, one of my Nakota customs. He's one of my favourites. He's really, really pretty. He was entered into 2 classes as well, so 1 breed and 1 colour. For his breed class, he was entered into Other Spanish as a Kiger Mustang, and he managed to get a 3rd place. For his colour class, he was entered into Dun / Grulla, and he managed to get a 4th. There was some pretty tough competition there, so he did really, really well. We have another one of my Nakota customs. This is Duncan. He is actually one of my newest models that you guys haven't seen yet. I entered him into 2 classes, so 1 breed, 1 colour, and he only got 1 placing, but I'm pretty happy with it. He was entered into Chestnut, and he came out with a 3rd, so he did really, really well. And lucky last of the placings for this show, we have Alfor, my Wally West resin that was painted by Sue Kern Thompson. He was entered into 3 classes, so breed, colour, and then workmanship. He only got 1 placing, but I'm pretty happy with it. So he was entered in his breed class as a American Mustang, and he came out with a 1st, so I'm pretty happy with that. And that's all of my placings. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing who my winning ponies are. I'm honestly so proud of all of them. Please don't forget to like, comment, and of course subscribe for more content, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!